Freedom. Is it actually a curse? Does the struggle to be the sole master of one's own fate bring nothing but pain and loneliness? Imagine for a moment Guts walking through the dark of night, wounded and bleeding. His hands are stained with blood, his mind haunted by dark shadows. He takes a deep breath and lifts his gaze to the starless sky. There is no sound around him, only the echo of his footsteps and the crushing weight of his own existence. In that moment, Guts feels truly alone in the world. The effort to create meaning, to define one's own freedom, to wage war against gods and fate, this struggle descends upon him like a curse. This very scene starkly reflects the fundamental conflict of existentialism, the fine line between freedom and loneliness. As Sartre once said, when man is free, he is also hopeless. This dark journey does not only touch Guts, but also resonates with the soul of the observer. Existentialism is the philosophy of confronting the meaninglessness of the world and striving to create one's own meaning. However, when this search turns into a battlefield, it leads man to the edge of the abyss. In the Berserk universe, every character carries the weight of chaos, meaninglessness, and fate on their shoulders. Guts, in particular, embodies the tragic tale of an individual striving to shed everything and forge his own identity and freedom. Griffith, on the other hand, echoes another existential dilemma, the dark side of freedom as defined by existentialism. As a man who constructs his divine purpose upon the lives of others, Griffith reveals the sinister aspect of this philosophy. In this story, the struggle of a human being to determine their own fate in a meaningless universe becomes more than a choice. It turns into an obligation. However, with this obligation come pain, loss, and loneliness. By delving deep into the souls of these characters, the audience is forced to confront their own existence. The existential crises faced by Guts, Griffith, and the other characters compel us to re-examine the meaning we seek in our own lives. Can a person find meaning in suffering and chaos? Can we truly become the masters of our own lives? Or does freedom itself drag us into a dark solitude? This is where Berserk invites us into an internal reckoning, one we have willingly accepted, discussing it for years. And its success in doing so is undeniable, as it has pushed all of us into existential contemplation. This manga, this anime, Berserk, is something truly fascinating. Existentialism. Yes, existentialism. But what is it? It is humanity's confrontation with the meaninglessness of the world and the struggle to create meaning within it. Many of us are constantly striving to make sense of our existence in this world, but this search is not an easy journey. Existentialist philosophers like Sartre and Kierkegaard focus on the individual's battle to create meaning through their own free will. As we frequently see in their writings, Sartre's famous phrase, "Hell is other people," deeply reflects Guts' loneliness and his relentless pursuit of freedom. Despite all the pain in the world, Guts chooses a life of solitude and freedom. From this perspective, Camus' concept of the absurd man perfectly encapsulates Guts' struggle to find meaning through battle. When we step into the world of Berserk, we find ourselves in a dark universe filled with characters who carve out their own meaning through suffering, rage, and the struggle to survive. This is a world drenched in pain, a world overflowing with sorrow, loneliness, and separation. And perhaps that is why it feels so real. In this universe, everything from beginning to end is a search for meaning and a battle for existence. Guts is a man who finds the meaning of life in the scars he has earned. He is, in many ways, the embodiment of the absurd hero described by existentialist philosophers. A warrior's nature is to confront death, to exist fearlessly amid endless suffering. For Guts, this existence grants him the opportunity to discover the meaning of life and the power of individuality. From the moment he is born, Guts is abandoned. He is forced to fight for survival at every turn. Those who have read the manga know he is a warrior, but his battles are not only against enemies, they are against himself as well. The hardships he endures, the scars he accumulates, all contribute to his understanding of existence. These wounds shape his identity. Like Camus' myth of Sisyphus, Guts falls over and over again, yet he always rises. Each wound reminds him of the weight of his existence and the reasons for his survival. Now, I want to pose a question to the readers. In Guts' journey, what truly matters? The victories he achieves, or the fact that he never stops fighting? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Guts' admiration and loyalty toward Griffith are at the heart of his tragic story. To Guts, Griffith is a light, a symbol of hope. He is captivated by Griffith's ideals, and his devotion becomes part of his struggle to find meaning in life. However, over time, this loyalty turns into an obsession, blocking Guts' path to discovering an independent existence. This is reminiscent of Camus' Absurd Man, as well as the relationship between saints, disciples, and their mentors. At some point, the ties must be severed, and both must part ways like a snapped thread drifting in different directions. Guts, too, must break free from this fixation and forge his own path. While he sees Griffith as a symbol of meaning, this process ultimately grants him an independent identity. This aligns with existentialism's critique of blind devotion to idealized figures in the face of meaninglessness. Guts spends most of his life navigating chaos and absurdity, yet even after experiencing unimaginable tragedies, he chooses to keep going. This is the absurd man's greatest triumph, acknowledging the meaninglessness of the world but choosing to live anyway. And then there's Griffith. A man who treats himself as a god will sacrifice the lives of others for his own purpose. Does this not perfectly describe him? Griffith's existential tragedy can be interpreted through Nietzsche's concept of the Übermensch. In his relentless pursuit of a grand purpose, he sacrifices everything, even betraying Guts and his comrades. He represents the extreme example of humanity's struggle to transcend itself, even at the cost of discarding others' existence. Unlike Guts, who finds meaning through his scars, Griffith's desire leads him on an arrogant path toward a godlike existence, disregarding the free will of those around him. In this sense, Griffith exposes the dark side of existentialism, the willingness to sacrifice the freedom of others for one's own ambition. Nietzsche's idea that man must overcome himself is, in Griffith's eyes, a philosophy that justifies any sacrifice, ultimately culminating in a great betrayal. Griffith is willing to risk everything in the name of humanity, but in reality, it is all in pursuit of his own power. To him, friendship, loyalty, and love are nothing more than tools, temporary elements that serve his dream. In this way, his actions contradict Kant's categorical imperative. He sees people not as ends in themselves, but merely as means to an end. Heidegger's idea that human existence gains meaning through other beings stands in direct opposition to Griffith's philosophy. Griffith seeks to shape his own existence solely for himself, chasing a grand purpose even at the cost of his humanity. This raises an essential question for the audience. Is it more valuable to remain human and confront our own suffering, or to abandon everything and ascend to a godlike existence like Griffith? Interestingly, even those who dislike Griffith might choose the path of godhood if faced with such a dilemma. The contradiction between Griffith's thirst for divine power and Guts's simple yet sincere search for a meaningful life highlights existentialism's core conflict between the individual and society. While Griffith pursues lofty ideals, he loses his humanity. Guts, on the other hand, endures the pain of being human, yet still forges his own path. At this point, we can analyze this clash through the lens of existentialism. Griffith chooses a self-serving existence, disregarding the value of others, while Guts embraces suffering and remains true to his own journey. This contrast ultimately exposes the dark side of ambition, how the pursuit of greatness can lead to the complete sacrifice of one's humanity. Guts' story is one of defiance against a fate dictated by godlike forces. In a world where the powerful and their divine machinations reign supreme, Guts moves by his own will, striving to break free from this cycle. With an unyielding, stoic determination, he stands against this celestial game. To him, fate is a chain, but one that can be broken. As he resists the manipulation of these higher powers, Guts embodies Kierkegaard's idea of taking responsibility for one's own existence. His struggle is not just a fight for survival, but a battle for freedom and individuality. In the moments where he defies divine forces in search of his own path, Kierkegaard's thoughts on anxiety and dread find their echoes. With every catastrophe he endures, Guts feels the weight of his freedom and existence more profoundly. To him, this burden is heavy but necessary. His inner rebellion forces the audience to ask, are we truly the masters of our own lives, or are we merely pawns in the hands of greater forces? Guts' relentless search for freedom is a reflection of the struggle to carve out one's own destiny. However, when the interference of divine forces becomes relentless, the price he pays is not just his freedom, but his very humanity. The wounds he bears in this battle are more than just physical scars. They are the price of free will itself. These marks serve as the tangible evidence of his struggle, the traces of individual will in a world that seeks to erase it. According to Kierkegaard, when an individual becomes aware of their own free will, they must confront anxiety and fear. As Guts overcomes these existential fears, he delves into the very essence of what it means to be human. His wounds are not just the price of survival, but the symbols of the cost one must pay on the path to true freedom. Guts stands defiantly against the gods, an unyielding figure opposing their cruel amusement. His struggle is akin to swimming upstream against a relentless current. Yet, unlike most, he does not falter. Guts embodies Kierkegaard's notion of fear and anxiety, the existential dread that arises when one takes hold of their own freedom. But instead of succumbing, he stands firm. Kierkegaard once said that man is but a speck of dust among the dark forces of the universe. This idea resonates profoundly in Griffith's transformation into femto. His ascension to godhood is one of the most striking depictions of man confronting his place in the cosmos and the absence of inherent meaning. Griffith does not seek meaning, he seeks power, abandoning humanity itself to transcend his limitations. Albert Camus' philosophy of the absurd becomes relevant here. The vast indifferent universe dwarfs human existence, rendering it seemingly meaningless. This existential insignificance is symbolized in Griffith's transformation. While Camus' absurd man rejects meaning, Griffith reshapes the universe itself, stripping it of all morality and human values. Femto, now a cosmic force, holds nothing but contempt and apathy for humanity, mirroring existentialism's view of the void. The contrast between Griffith and Guts is a clash of ideologies. Griffith discards his humanity in pursuit of ultimate power, while Guts, despite enduring unimaginable suffering, chooses to remain human. He embraces the hardship of existence, carrying his wounds as proof of his struggle. In doing so, he represents the fight to preserve human values in the face of overwhelming godlike forces. The true battle is not fought against the enemies outside, but against the monsters within. Guts' battles are not only against his enemies or fate. His greatest struggle is with himself, with the darkness within. In the Berserk universe, defeating external enemies never brings Guts peace. In his life, every victory comes with another defeat. His anger toward himself, the fire of revenge, and the pain that never fades. Isn't the Behelit that appears in Guts' mind the most concrete symbol of this battle? It reveals the darkness within, his fears, his suppressed desires, and his deepest contradictions. The Behelit is like a totem that constantly reminds him of his fate. It is a symbol that tests his mind and soul every single day. Here, Kierkegaard's existential philosophy comes into play. According to him, a person's greatest fear and anxiety are natural consequences of their freedom. In his search for freedom, Guts fully experiences this anxiety and darkness because protecting this freedom means facing himself and confronting the beast within. This inner darkness seeks to weaken him at every step in every moment of weakness. However, these moments of weakness reveal the most fundamental aspects of being human: fear, anxiety, pain, and loneliness. Guts' struggle to remain strong despite all these emotions perfectly reflects the internal battle of humanity and the true cost of freedom. This battle directly brings up the fundamental question at the heart of existentialism. How does a person overcome their own fears? The Behelit constantly keeps Guts' fear of death and the feeling of meaninglessness in the universe alive in his mind. While this figure calls to him as a seductive force, it also introduces him to his own inner strengths. Forced to confront death, tragedy, and loss time and time again, Guts chooses to move forward without succumbing to the darkness within him. The Behelit is both a curse and a reminder, a shadow that constantly reminds him of his strength to rise again no matter how many times he falls. Like Camus' absurd man, Guts must define himself and survive despite the overwhelming darkness and meaninglessness around him. This inner battle forms the core of Guts' existential journey. His process of facing the beast within, teaches him the true cost of freedom in its harshest form. As Kierkegaard stated, the price of freedom is anxiety. This anxiety is a force that can both elevate a person and drag them into darkness. By confronting his own fears and inner darkness, Guts pays this price, but in doing so, he discovers who he truly is. The Behelit constantly reminds him how difficult freedom and independence truly are. However, at the same time, it also shows him that this freedom grants him the opportunity to define his own existence. Guts' process of reconciling with his dark side offers the viewer a profound opportunity for introspection. How should we confront our own inner monsters? Is the darkness within us a part of who we are, or is it an enemy trying to strip us of our freedom? Guts' relentless inner struggle invites the viewer to question their own existence and confront their own dark aspects. Indeed, a person's greatest enemy is themselves. Guts' relationship with the Behelit shows that this enemy is also the force that defines a person's freedom. Ultimately, Guts' inner battle is shaped not only by the conflicts of the external world, but by the turmoil within himself. Confronting his own darkness is a journey for him, and this journey also encourages the viewer to reflect on their own existential battles. Guts' arduous fight calls upon all of us to look into the mirror of our own darkness. In the journey of existence, true freedom only gains meaning when we face our own inner fears.